they couldn't get it done last night, dropping Game 4 to the Pacers 131-21. Sloppy play and poor defense cost New York in key moments, and they couldn't overcome Tyrese Halliburton's career night. The Knicks now trail 3-1 in the series on the brink of elimination, but Karl-Anthony Towns isn't ready to throw in the towel. Take a listen.
We've been a team that has kind of found a way to do the impossible when it always seemed impossible. You know, we just keep fighting. So it's going to be a testament to our whole playoff run. You know, now we have to be in one of the biggest fights of our lives and of our season, and it starts with next game.
Okay, Stephen A., here's what I want to know. Are the Knicks done? And what I mean by are the Knicks done, meaning are they not winning the series? I'm not talking about another game. I'm talking about going to the finals.
It looks that way. I'm not of the mindset that I'm ready to concede that. I find it hard to believe they're going to overcome a 3-1 deficit, but I'm going to go down with the ship. I think they're going to win Game 5. I think they can win a Game 7. Game 6 on Indiana's home turf is the problem. Can they get through that game? So my mentality is win Game 5, and then after that go back to Indiana, with Indiana knowing they don't want to go to a Game 7. And if the New York Knicks can take them out that game, anything's possible. They're right now, the odds are stacked against them. I wouldn't bet my money on it, but I'm not going to completely count them out. I'm still going to give them a chance to come back from this.
Yeah, I definitely will, too. 13 teams, by the way, have come from 3-1 down to win a series in the NBA. 13 teams have done it, and most of them do it the way the Knicks will have to do it. 2 games at home. There's only a couple of teams who won 3-1 down when they didn't have home court. The Celtics did it against Philly with Russo in his second to last year, and Houston did it one year to Phoenix down 3-1, didn't have home court, and they won. I think the Knicks can, I don't know if they will, but 3 in a row against Indiana will be very difficult. I'm with Steve 100% on that. But I think they're going to win Game 5. I don't think they're going to lose 3 games in a row at Madison Square Garden. They've already won a game in Indiana. You know there'll be a tough out in that Game 6. They will be a tough out. They're on the season's on the line. There'll be a tough out in that game. So it's not impossible. It's been done. We've all seen it be done. Indiana's not that much better than the Knicks. They should be 2-2 in this series. And they have 2 games at home. I know they're bad at home, but they're due to win a game here eventually in their building. 1 game at a time. Go to Indiana to play the game on Saturday night and get to Game 7 at home on Monday. Not impossible. Knicks are not done in this series.
I do feel for every New York Knicks fan because that Game 1 is going to haunt you guys. At Game 1, you get that Game 1 where you're up double digits, close that one out, you're going back to New York 2-2 right now. This
totally different series.
Man.
Yeah.
This series is over.
Over.
This is a wrap. Or as my boys would say, chicken sees a wrap. It up.
In Game 5, or you want to give the Knicks a Game 5?
I'm just saying they may be able to get Game 5. I mean, if the energy is right. But also the thing that's concerning about this is that the Knicks are 3-5 in the playoffs at home.
It's a problem.
That's a major problem. They're better on the road than they actually are at home. And the one thing that is my biggest concern is that I trust in who the Pacers are more than I trust who the Knicks are trying to become in order to beat the Pacers. I feel like there's a real identity crisis going on with the Knicks, tinkering around with different lineups, trying to understand how do we play defensively, some of the challenges, the minutes thing I told you, which I really think is a big thing. It may not be physical fatigue, but I do feel like there is a big mental fatigue considering all the dogfights that they've had to go through in order to get to this point. And that pace and that continuity is a real thing. And this is not a good defensive team. This is not a traditional Thibs team. So in my opinion, this thing is a wrap. It's done.
Well, let me tell you something. It hurts to hear Jay say that, but nobody's in a position to refute what he's saying, because when you take into account the Knicks in its totality, and it's something, if and when this season ends, we'll reflect on this team in this season, and unfortunately, it won't be with glowing comments. We have to reflect on what they had, and we have to ask ourselves, did you have to give up 5 first-round picks, 4 unprotected for Mikal Bridges? Was it the wisest thing to let Hartenstein get away and go to Oklahoma City instead of paying him $87 million over 3 years? Is this team tougher? Because you got to remember, Tom Thibodeau Yeah, he says last night we scored 120 points. That's enough, but we got to be better defensively. Tom Thibodeau, his teams don't defend like this, but they're not a good defensive team.
Stephen,
So,
do you feel like he's coaching
Cleveland's not
himself out
going
of a
away.
job?
I'm not going to go that far, and here's why I'm going to say I'm not going to go that far, Molly, because it wasn't his decision to give up 5 first-round picks for Mikal Bridges. See, you have to look at the Knicks and dissect their future, not just their present. Like, did Tom Thibodeau really, really want to compromise their defense to get more offense? Does he strike you as that kind of guy? No, he does not. So you know that was upper management. That wasn't him. But nevertheless, you're the coach, and you're supposed to do what you're supposed to work with what you have. And when you see the New York Knicks, and we thought Boston and Cleveland were better, and then we saw Detroit, who, by the way, didn't have a couple. They didn't have Stewart. They didn't have, this cat, Jaden Ivey. They didn't have a couple of pieces they'll have next year. Detroit's not going away. Orlando's on the come up. Cleveland's already here. They'll have something to say, especially after going down the way that they did. Indiana's not going away. Boston, one has to believe, will resurrect himself in some capacity eventually. So the championship aspirations that the New York Knicks were hoping these moves would ultimately morph into has not transpired. And a matter of fact, it looks more daunting than ever. So I'm looking at it from that standpoint. They've got a lot of things to think about this offseason. Tom Thibodeau will be one of them, no doubt about it. But he ain't the only one. He ain't the only one because he didn't make those moves. They made those moves. And, and if they lose
really
this series,
quick,
nobody's going to believe it pans out for them.
But just playing devil's advocate, did any of us really have the Knicks going to the finals this season? So in some ways you could look at it, they still exceeded expectations. Even if there were some poor roster moves and some trades that we don't agree with, I mean, they're outperforming what we expected of them this season.
No, we expected them to get to the conference finals when they made the moves until we saw Cleveland start the season the way that it did. We thought it would be Boston and New York.
No, you're right.
The New York Knicks are still here, but that's not the issue. The issue is because of the assets that you gave up. We're thinking if there was a piece out there to get, how you going to get them?
Yeah, Jay?
Because you gave up your assets. That's the problem.
Yep. Jay?
Stephen A., I love Thibs. I think he is a tremendous coach. And I agree with your points about management and if that were the real kind of choices that Thibs would have wanted management to actually make. But I will give you this caveat. There's an if. If they lose Game 5 at home to Indiana, that will now have been 2 years in a row.
Where are you going?
They have lost to their conference rival at Madison Square Garden. Last year was Game 7. It was a really big thing. You retool, you got the right pieces, and now you're playing against them again. If they lose against them in Game 5 at home, you will start to hear a trickle-down effect or a flooding effect of, can we go back to Game 5 against Detroit? Why did he have Josh Hart and Jalen Brunson wait so long? We will start to revisit a lot of those things. And as much as I love Warriors and guys actually playing a lot of minutes, because it refutes all the stuff about load management, we will then start to go back to, well, why couldn't he get Chicago over the hump? What happened in Chicago? Why couldn't he get Minnesota over the hump? What happened into Minnesota? Will he be the guy to get the Knicks over the hump, or is he the guy that gets the Knicks right there, but is a guy like Michael Malone the guy to get them over the hump?
Yeah, you can't hire a guy who just got fired from Denver with 3 games to go to the regular season and bring him in to coach the Knickerbockers. I am shocked that Thibodeau's taking this kind of abuse. First off, last year, Game 7, they were all banged up. OG didn't play, Hart and Brunson broke his hand in the game.
Indiana was banged up too.
They had, but their best players played. No, he didn't. He got hurt in the Boston series.
That's right.
The following series.
Fair.
The Pacers were healthy in that Game 7. The Knicks weren't. So from that standpoint, I got to give Thibodeau a break, Jay. Last year, I didn't mean to jump on you about the Howard.
Okay, it's all right, fine.
But I have to give them a break last year in Game 7. This is the first Knicks coach in 25 years to win back-to-back 50-game seasons. I mean, gee whiz. Now, and how about all those dopey Knicks fans who went crazy last week when they beat Boston, who were the defending champs? What, those are the people now who are going to convince the owner, who I don't trust? They're going to convince the owner because they lost 3 games at home to Indiana, let's fire Thibodeau? And who's going to coach the team? This guy's done, Brunson loves him. He's done a great job coaching his team. All right, we're going to make a big deal about the freaking minutes. We can find something with all these coaches. What, we're going to fire Chris Finch? He's going to go 2 and he's going to be, Chris Finch is going to be 2-8 in conference finals the last 2 years with maybe the best player in the league, and he's won 2 games. Let's fire him too. Sometimes the other team, you got to tip your cap. The other team might be a little better. Indiana's a little better than the Knicks right now. And again, did the Knicks underachieve this year? No, they did not. They beat the Boston Celtics, and forget the Tatum injury. They were going to lose that series anyway, Boston. They beat the defending champions, and they beat them easy. Now, all of a sudden, they lose to Indiana, and we're going to get him out of there? I'm amazed that this is a conversation.
Well,
this is why the Knicks for years have been a disaster. The guy should coach the team. He's a hell of a coach.
Well, hold on. You're right from the standpoint that we shouldn't be talking about getting rid of Thibs because he has done a hell of a job this postseason. You can't take that away from him, and they had a good regular season. And I'm looking at management more than I'm looking so with him because I know the personnel that he had. Just think about it for a second here. If Hartenstein, Randall, DiVincenzo had been here, the New York Knicks would be exponentially better defensively. Exponentially better. There would be no Karl Anthony Towns, of course, but you would have the other pieces. They would be exponentially better. So Doggy is right about that with Thibs. Doggy, what you're missing, however, is that where Thibs has messed up is allowing the same complaints to rear its ugly head, which led to his departures out of Chicago and Minnesota. They knew he could coach too. He had success with Derrick Rose to some degree until Derrick Rose got hurt. He certainly had success with Jimmy Butler and Karl Anthony Towns there and getting Minnesota to the postseason for the first time in ions. We get that part. The flip side to it, however, is that your reputation is that you would run cats into the ground. And so what have we learned? We saw players during the regular season talking about they needed rest, including Mikal Bridges, who we've never heard that from in his career. We come to the postseason. We see that his team is playing what amounts to 15 more games as starters than the Indiana Pacers and practically everybody else in the postseason because no one is known for running their players into the ground. So if you're a management, you have to take into account the contracts that you're signing these guys to, what you're projecting from them that they'll be able to give you, and whether or not they're going to be able to sustain what level of excellence they've given you thus far with this coach. There are coaches who have been gone not because they can't coach, but because they weren't the right guy for the personnel that you had available, because that personnel got guaranteed contracts and you're trying to get what you can out of them. And Thibs usually does it in year 1 as opposed to year 3 and 4 because he wears them down. That's a fact, Doggy. There's no way around that.
I mean, he's in the conference finals, Steve. They beat the world champs. If Naismith doesn't play basically Jerry West in the last 5 minutes or last 30 seconds of game number 2 or game 1, we'd be 2-2 right now, and nobody would be talking about let's fire Thibs. I mean, think about it. One of the greatest postseason moments in the history of the NBA. He made 6 threes in the fourth quarter. He made 3 in the last 30 seconds of the game. That's never been done.
That's why we brought up the front office.
If that doesn't happen, Stephen, we are 2-2, and we are not having a conversation, Jay, on whether Thibs is the right guy to coach the New York Knickerbockers.
All I'm telling you is that.
Why do you always say that?
Say what, Steve?
You do radio every day for 40 years. How many times have you gone on your diatribes writing the epitaph for a team because the season ended? You don't sit up there. You didn't ignore it when the Yankees lose or the Mets lose or the Knicks lose or the Jets or the Giants lose or somebody else. What do? You give a eulogy. You talk about why they lost. You talk about what went wrong. You talk about what needs to be corrected. You've been doing it for 40 years, but suddenly you gonna get on television and act like we ain't supposed to do that. What's wrong with you? You do it every day. You're gonna do it to the New York Knicks when it's over. You know it. You know you are.
But
You know you are.
All right, let me ask you a question, Steve. You want Thibodeau fired
Right,
if they lose
yes.
Game 5? You want Thibodeau fired if they lose Game 5?
No.
Jay, you
no.
do?
No, I
I
don't.
do not.
I just said there's a caveat. These things will start to rear its ugly head 2 years in a row in these conversations that Steve and I just said. I'm not saying that I
They
think he
said
should
they're
be
having
fired.
an identity crisis.
With the
With
7,000
this Indiana team,
with
they
the
are.
7,000 dopey Knicks fans on
Molly-
lampposts when they beat the Celtics.
Molly,
Right,
Doggy is sitting there.
Go ahead.
Molly, Doggy is sitting there like Doggy is going to say the Knicks season comes to an end in Game 5 or 6. Doggy is acting like he's going to go on the radio and he's going to say, "Way to go, Knicks! I'm so proud of you." He knows better. He knows better. He's not going to do that.
Pretty well,
okay?
yeah.
So just stop it.
Like the floppy wrist.
Oh my gosh, let's go.
That's what he does.
Wanna try to boast at what I look like. Think I'm gonna try to wear, I pull up long range. Jimmy with the heat, I'm on fire. It's NBA over here,